What's up, everybody? Geoff Cooper here. Welcome back to Blue Collar Heathen on YouTube. And today, going to be addressing the question, what will it take for you to believe in God? You know you've been asked it. I've been asked it 1,000 times. Let's just get this done. Anyone that's ever expressed doubts on the existence of divinity has invariably been asked the question, well, what will it take for you to believe in God? You wouldn't even have to necessarily identify as an atheist for this to come up. Just express some kind of doubt. And the thing is you're never really being asked that question. They don't really want your answer. Or so it seems most of the time. Usually when this is brought up, it's late into a conversation and both people that are participating are irritated or frustrated, and it's asked kind of dismissively, and it often receives a reply in kind of, dismissal or, maybe a bit biting. I like funny things. I mean, I appreciate a good, witty, smart-ass comeback as much as... All right, well, probably a little more than the next guy. And let's face it, some of the answers that have been given to this kind of question are, they are exactly that. They're witty, inspired, memorable, even quotable. They're always good for a laugh. There's been a few insightful answers to this question too, and these tend to be from a speaker that's honestly sitting down and assessing the question and trying to answer as honestly as they can, keeping the smart-assedness to a minimum. I'm not going to say absent, because most people that, are communicators in the first place generally have a bit of smart-ass in them. It's kind of like a prerequisite. Because both the really smart-ass answers and the insightful ones tend to be quotable. They tend to get legs, right? So other people use them. And this will actually get theists to charge atheists with not thinking for themselves. It's really a charge against atheism. It really is. And it's funny because this is coming from a camp that has their reasons for believing as, I was born into it, or I turned myself over to God after, some personal tragedy or addiction, or, I really loved her and I wanted to get married in a church. So, these are their reasons, but we're accused of not thinking for ourselves by them. They'll make up their own memes and circulate it amongst themselves. It just leads to bad communication all the way around. This often turns conversations into contests of one-upmanship. See who can remember the best memes supporting their position. But recently I've been asked this question, and it wasn't in the context of frustration or irritation, or if it was hidden really well. I got the impression that maybe just this one time I was being asked honestly. And I'm going to try to give my best answer. So I thought about it. And, what would do it for me? What would make me say this right here, this is what I need to believe in a God? Not trying to give anybody that's looking on or, watching the thread on Twitter a laugh or just hurry a frustrating conversation to its useless end where both parties just immediately file the whole thing into waste of fucking time section in their brains. But what is really that answer? What would make me believe something? Anything. What makes me believe? I tend to believe very little, relying more on that which can be shown to be true, or has been shown to be true to a level where that's been reached as a consensus to experts in the field in question. Now, I'm no geologist, but I tend to understand the basics of, plate tectonics, and I'm not a physician, but, I understand the basics of germ theory. I'm not a physicist, but I understand about the theory of gravity. So I'll often defer to experts in the field of study in question. Every theist I've ever met has some personal definition of the God they think they serve, and the way to curry that God's favor through worship. There does not appear to be a body of experts in theology, because one would have to first grant that it's a legitimate field of study in the first place, rather than being a book club in which the members bestow upon themselves grandiose-sounding titles. But for a moment, let's pretend that it is. Those who purport to study divinity are notably lacking in concrete evidence of their field of expertise. I mean, there's certainly little, if any, crossover into the hard sciences that they claim to have dominion over, such as biology, physics, chemistry, cosmology. And one really has to note that the definition that they use for divinity is hardly universal. I mean, the individual definitions from which they work are often exclusive to all others, so the outsider has no real way to tell which, if any, are correct. I don't think that many theists will like the answer that I'm about to give, but then again, I don't think that many theists would like any answer that I give that doesn't say something like, oh no, please quote Romans 1:20 to me again, or Psalm 14, or maybe go full presuppositionalist. I mean, that might do it, because that's all they can do. The only things they've got are word games and quote mine passages from their scriptures. So you theists, take note here. I am wholly unimpressed by your so-called divinely revealed scripture. There is absolutely no quotations that you could read from it that are going to impress me. They will not get you any closer to your goal, if that goal is to get me to believe in a God. Trust me, you're barking up and reading from the wrong dead tree. There is no way of which I'm aware at current of ascertaining whether a specific work was the divine inspiration of any particular deity, if one were to grant that they exist. If I were to write about dryads, for example, would that be the work of the Greek muses Erato, Polymnia, or Calliope? If I were to write about Olkhan Island in Lake Baikal, would that be the inspiration of Burkham? If I were to say something about, necromancy, right, would that be the divine inspiration of Mordiggian, Zothic's charnel god? Could Polymnia inspire a non-Greek work if she were real? Couldn't it be that your divinely revealed scripture was the work of some other god, some unnamed god, that inspired the authors of the Bible to create this false god, Yahweh, to turn the attention from him so he can go back to doing preferred things like, drinking ambrosia and playing strip poker with Aphrodite, Freya, and Athena? What about the gods of lost arts? I seem to remember a number of spinning and weaving gods in ancient cultures and blacksmith gods. I wonder how those gods and the devotees of them are faring in today's industrialized society. Where did they go? And if I get an idea to, say, make a parachute, right, for one of my rockets over here, if I get that idea, is it falling under the divine inspiration of one of the gods of the arts? Or does that fall into one of the spinning and weaving gods? How does one tell? If I were to make it if I were to do it by hand or do it on a machine, would that make a difference of which god was giving me the inspiration? How could one possibly tell? Makes me also wonder about gods of past mysteries. I mean, aside from Yahweh, I could name at least 4 divine creatures or gods that were once held responsible for earthquakes. That would be Namatsu, Loki, Poseidon, and Gula. How could we exclude any one of them? Is it only regional? If there's an earthquake in Japan, does that mean that it's not Loki? If there's an earthquake in Scandinavia, does that mean it's not Poseidon? Are they only regional? If there's an earthquake in Mesoamerica, is it Yahweh? It really doesn't make any sense, does it? How can we exclude any of these other gods or divine creatures if we were to take divinely inspired text as the criteria for belief? I don't see a way to do it. You would have to grant them all as existent, wouldn't you? But what about those cultures without such gods? If one were to really sit there and think about it, how many gods of oceanic influence, like Poseidon, are you going to see in landlocked cultures? You're not going to see any gods of blacksmiths, of people that didn't have any metallurgy. You're not going to see forest goddesses in the desert nomad tribes, and you're not going to see, divine sandstorms in the folklore of forest-dwelling tribes. It's gods all the way up and turtles all the way down. It's an infinite regress. Gets you nowhere. So I see no difference, absolutely zero difference in quoting from the Bible or quoting from the poetic Eddas of the Norse or any of the Greek epic poems or citing any of the oral tradition folklore of any particular tribe or band of people across all of antiquity, all across the world. It's all mythology to me, and appealing to it is worthless in support of an argument. Conclude that a God exists through scientific inquiry, have it peer-reviewed, have it become consensus of the scientific community, and you'll make a believer out of me. God theory, an actual theory, being a body of knowledge including facts and hypotheses that have been confirmed by experts in the field that can be put together and show a broad range of natural phenomenon. Come up with this. This is what you should be working toward. Show me the mechanism by which this could work. Give me the measurable data that can point one to this conclusion. Give me something to understand. And sure, that would do it. This has been attempted before, of course. This is how we came to have tectonic plate theory, as early scientists were studying what they thought was God's creation in the earth. And the germ theory of disease, the Big Bang, gravity, the theory of evolution, as the early scientists were trying to better understand what they thought were God's created kinds. And now I can hear the objections already, the accusations of scientism as if that's a fucking thing. And, all these furiously typed responses that are going to come down with everything that began to exist. That's fine. I really don't care. I'm not going to get into word games in the comments section here. I can assure you of that. But what I most often hear in objection to this is this bizarre appeal to the supernatural. That I'm being accused of eliminating the supernatural from consideration, and I want to address that preemptively here. I'm not eliminating the supernatural from consideration. to eliminate something, it first has to be put into play in the first place, and the supernatural is not a card that's even in play. I mean, I have no workable definition of the word and no demonstration that such a thing is indeed existent. So I don't appeal to it. If you do, fine. Bring it on. Present your case for the supernatural, demonstrate that it exists, and then we can have something to discuss. Until such a time as you do, I don't have anything to work with. But if you want to, prove the supernatural exists, and I'll be happy. I'll be eager to reassess my position. So if you want me to believe in a God, you can accomplish this. But you're not going to be able to do it through divinely inspired or divinely revealed scripture. Because that actually makes your job harder. Okay? So we're going to eliminate scripture for the reasons that I've already given. Now, we're not going to rely on word games either, because those are at best a broken compass. So you're actually going to have to do the work and discover a God. Make your observations, formulate a hypothesis from them, perform experiments attempting to falsify that hypothesis, make predictions once you can, have these confirmed by competitors, submit them for review and publication. Reach a consensus and discover God. That would do it. As I've said before, and I'm sure I'm going to again, pretend I'm from Missouri. Show me. Give me proof, or give me peace. That's all we got for this time. Thank you so much for sticking around. Also, I wanted to say hi to all the new people that have subscribed in the recent weeks. Great having you guys here. But it's time for me to go. I know. Don't be sad. It's all right. I'll be back next week. Probably. I'm planning on being back next week. We'll go with that, right? So, anyways, thank you for sticking around. We'll see you all next time. Take it easy.